The coffee grows cold in Valerie Enzer's hands as she watches another Klein Karoo sunrise paint the Rooiberg Mountains gold. At 79, she's lived alone on this Van Wyksdorp farm for years, surrounded by the kind of silence that stretches kilometers between neighbors. Van Wyksdorp isn't much more than a railway siding and scattered farms across semi-arid landscape. Founded in the 1800s as a stopover to the diamond fields, it's where everyone knows everyone, help is always offered, and doors remain unlocked. But in July 2025, that isolation, the peace Valerie treasured, became the perfect cover for unthinkable violence. This is Brick and Blood, South African Town Tales. It is Monday morning, July 15th, 2025. The farm worker's boots crunched across frost-brittle grass as he approached Valerie's homestead for another routine week. This routine was shattered at 9 a.m. when he found her. The emergency call to Ladysmith SAPS carried the tremor veteran dispatchers recognize someone who had seen too much too suddenly. There's been a murder. Van Wyksdorp district, an old lady. Valerie Enzer, 79 years old, lived alone on her Klein Karoo farm. For years, she had maintained her independence with quiet dignity. Neighbors describe a woman who kept to herself but remained cordial, who managed her property competently despite her age. When police arrived, they found Valerie's body on her porch. The scene showed signs of a struggle. This elderly woman had fought for her life. Inside her house, investigators discovered systematic searching. Room after room showed methodical ransacking. Drawers pulled open, cupboards emptied, personal belongings scattered across floors. What emerged during the investigation painted a disturbing pattern. In the weeks leading up to July the 15th, Valerie had reported escalating incidents on her property to local authorities. There was fence cutting, there was livestock poisoning, illegal grazing. Each complaint had been logged and investigated as routine rural nuisance calls. But viewed in retrospect, these incidents take on more sinister meaning. Someone had been testing Valerie's responses, observing her routines, assessing her vulnerability. The breakthrough came quickly. Within 24 hours of Valerie's body being discovered, a 17-year-old local resident appeared in Ladysmith Magistrates Court. The charges read out carried the full weight of rural betrayal, murder, and rape. The accused cannot be named due to age restrictions under South African law, but court documents reveal a local resident, someone who knew Van Wyksdorp intimately, who had grown up in this small community where everyone knows everyone. This was not a stranger crime. This was not a random attack by outsiders. This was someone from within Van Wyksdorp's tight-knit community of 800 residents. Someone who had transformed familiarity with a neighbor into an opportunity for violence. The case continues to move through South Africa's legal system. The juvenile court proceedings is conducted behind closed doors, and they will determine the fate of a teenager accused of murdering and raping an elderly woman. Klein Karoo farmhouses follow design patterns that inadvertently maximize criminal advantage. Properties average around 5 to 15 hectares, with homesteads positioned for landscape views rather than security monitoring. The architectural philosophy prioritizes connection with natural beauty over protection from human threats. Valerie's porch faced the mountains, not the access road. Rural architectural beauty became a tactical criminal advantage. The 45-kilometer distance to Ladysmith meant no street lighting, no CCTV networks, no emergency call boxes. Rural lifestyle architecture actively rejects urban security infrastructure. This systematic vulnerability replicates across rural South Africa. Isolated homesteads, landscape-oriented design, distance-dependent security. Thousands of properties share identical architectural DNA that criminals increasingly understand better than residents. The pattern of pre-crime incidents represents architectural vulnerability assessment. Fence cutting tested response times. Animal poisoning tested neighbor awareness. Illegal grazing tested police attention. Klein Karoo architecture failed every single test. Rural properties become optimal criminal environments precisely during periods when residents feel most secure. Weekend isolation means skeleton neighbor presence, minimal traffic, reduced emergency staffing. Distance that defines Klein Karoo living creates operational windows that you will not find in urban spaces. Effective rural security requires recognizing isolation as a liability rather than an asset. Strategic modifications can maintain the lifestyle benefits whilst addressing the vulnerabilities. Communication networks connecting isolated properties. Emergency systems compensating for distance, as well as community coordination replacing urban surveillance. Valerie Enzer chose Klein Karoo living for its silence and dignity. At 79, she had earned her morning coffee on the porch, her Rooiberg sunrises, her independence. Neighbors describe a woman who maintained her farm competently and who represented rural resilience. When she reported fence cutting and animal poisoning in July's early weeks, she was protecting not just livestock, but her chosen way of life. Her death doesn't just claim one victim, it destroys van Wyksdorp's assumptions about safety, about knowing neighbors, about rural architecture as protective rather than enabling. Valerie represents thousands of rural South African women who choose architectural isolation for lifestyle benefits without recognizing systematic vulnerability. She deserved Klein Karoo independence without Klein Karoo defenselessness. Valerie, you deserve better. You deserved so much more. Peace, quiet, tranquility. It was offered to you for years, and then someone stole it. May you rest in peace. Van Wyksdorp carries its quiet differently now. The Karoo horizons still stretch endlessly, but there's new watchfulness in how neighbors check on neighbors, in extra precautions on farm gates, in the careful way people move through these lonely spaces. As this case continues through our legal system, Van Wyksdorp confronts how isolation can become vulnerability, how the very architecture that defines rural beauty can enable rural violence. This case is still ongoing. The details are based on publicly available information as of September 2025. The accused cannot be named due to age restrictions under South African law. If this episode moved you, please subscribe and share. Your support brings these important stories to light. Until next time, walk softly, listen deeply, and remember, every wall has a story, and some stories are still being written.